Good morning. I see the excitement from your faces. Welcome to another exciting session. We have set the pace from the plenary. We got a very good feel of the past, where you have come from. Mark Walker did a very good thing to tell us to set the floor, to set the ground. And also we have had a very good view of what is going to come, particularly with the mention of the strategic plan, that will be master plan that is going to be launched later in the afternoon. We are lucky that many of us have had a chance to see a bit of that future as put in the ICT master plan. But the question is, how do we go about it? What do we do? What's going to happen? And for that, I invite you to listen to this very exciting session when we are going to go granular and talk about the projects that we are going to implement. And of course, the key thing is to explore those projects. What is the policies that is going to be we need to have in place to be able to realize those projects? And also, what is your role? What benefit do you get out of that? To help us try to interrogate this, I want us to use this graphic to help us to interrogate this. First of all, we notice that we are all connected, and that is the theme of this event. We are all connected. So at the horizontal level, the connection is allowed ICTs, and we are talking about broadband. We talked about broadband, and of course, the universal services to our counties. The PS has told us 34 counties are connected, but we need to go to all the 47. And also, out of the capitals of the 34 we have connected, down to the village. And of course, with it, the pipes are not enough. We need the content, and also we need to grow the ICT industry. And with it, of course, is the solutions that we need. So that we'll use as the foundation. But within it, we are going to isolate not all the pillars, but a few of the pillars that we need to look at. And one of them, very exciting, is about the quality of our life. We need healthy Kenyans, strong, ready to do their bit, to be able to bring a new Kenya. And we are going to have a very exciting presentation coming from one of the panelists in that. The other area we'll also look at, it will be mentioned, and I know one of our panelists will look at it, is allowed 40% of the cost of doing business is allowed transport and logistics. So if you want to improve the quality of that, doing business, then it means we have to address that. And we'll be talking about a bit about how we are going to use ICT, what is the opportunity, who is doing what, and how we move forward as a decision of this. And then we'll also look at how do we see ourselves to create value in terms of innovation, in terms of industrialization, entrepreneurship, very, very critical. All this is within the context of a master plan, which is going to be launched later in the afternoon, and many of you have seen it. And this is intended to drive us, or within the context of the medium-term planning of the government, and this, again, set within the context, taking us towards a new Kenya as defined by you in Vision 2030. And with that, I want to share with you the excitement through the people who are going to present this.
Let me show you how this is done. So I simply click on the log on, and I securely enter my details. I press login. And with me on the screen, I'm able to look at all the previous applications submitted by me, but I'm also able to add a new birth. I have the option of entering the ID number as we have it today, but with the third generation IDs, I can also be able to scan. I will then scan And with me is now more information. This information is from the Department of Civil Registration. And so I can be able to see the surname, I can be able to see the forenames, I can see the place of birth of the mother, I can see the citizenship, and also enter additional information. The mother can be able to sign this. I save. I can also be able to capture the ID as it were. For which I save. With all this information, I then proceed to save. And I get the information that the application for the details of the mother have been captured. I then move on to the father's details, and I capture it in the same manner. So this is the father. I want to scan the ID for Alexander. There you go. Finally. Hey. Yeah. And I'll have the father sign. So is the father. Save. Okay, so having captured the mother and the father's details, I will save the father's as well. And that is successfully submitted. And finally, we now have our baby James information that I need to enter. So you can see it's picked up the surname. I need to put his first name. The date of birth is picked up. And we have James, male. The type of birth being single. The place of birth. The district. The marital status of the parents. And that being a civil marriage, I can enter the date of birth, the date of the marriage of the parents. And then I can take a picture of baby James. Yeah? Kuchi. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having captured that, I'll save it. And with that, upon the clicking of the submit button, this information is automatically passed on to the Department of Civil Registration. Yeah. And when I click OK, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have a milestone. We have the first official record of baby James as a citizen of Kenya. Yay. Now, my only job left is to pick up the birth certificate and hand it over to the parents at a later stage. So with my work having been done, let us see now the information that I have entered, how the information looks like in the Department of Registration.
Thank you. So now the people working at the Civil Registration Department can now have a new record of a baby being registered, whether it be at the village or whether it be any urban area where this birth has taken place. All right? When a new birth it registers, it is as a start of creating a live record for the baby. This ensures that the child is captured as a citizen of the country and can begin the civil record journey. All right? So now, as a result, you can see on our SAP a cloud instance of the customer relationship management, which we use for social services. The baby James details are recorded. I can see the names. I can see when the baby was born. I can see the gender and so forth. If I move on to the next tab, I can then see all the relationship the mother and the father of the baby, if there were any attachments which were taken, if there were pictures or attachments of the IDs which were taken during the registration of the birth, I can see that from from the back-end system as well. The very same information can then be used to create tasks and activities for the relevant additional departments, right? So the health department can then see that the baby needs to go for immunization in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time and so forth. In that instance, they can then plan ahead to make sure that those immunizations are available for the babies when the time comes. And then the next step, you can then track the status of each of the tasks that have been created. So you can see if a task has been completed or when is the plane date of creation. Yeah? So that in itself gives us a nice record of the baby, and then we can be able to plan accordingly. I would now like my colleague to show you how you can then take this information, which has been captured from a mobile device, stored in our SAP CRM solution, then being consumed by business intelligence or analytical tools by other departments in order for them to plan the services that they can provide to the citizens and the baby.
So my name is James, and not the baby who was just born. I'm a research analyst at the Ministry of Health, and my job is simple, to make sure that I match the levels of vaccine required for the children with the registration happening in different regions at different times. Okay? So this requires a lot of insight. And with this, I used to use a lot of Excel sheets before we met SAP, and this was not simple, it was quite complex. But now with SAP, I'm able to have my insights at my handheld device anytime I want to make a decision. And this helps me to be more efficient and to make better decisions. An example of what I would analyze is the level of polio vaccines within different regions. And I only look at the left side of the dashboard, and I can see that the level of polio vaccine in the eastern region, sorry, just go back. Yes, it raises a red flag because there is significantly higher birth registrations as compared to the stock levels of the polio vaccine. So I will decide, yes, we need to supply more vaccine in this region, but I have another challenge. We distribute this vaccine with 2 channels. The first channel being mobile clinics and permanent clinics. So if I click on the phased breakdown, I am able to check which is more effective. Is it the mobile clinics or is it the permanent clinics? My other challenge is I need to distribute this to children under 6 months because that is where we think that we impact more, the highest impact in the society. So with this information, I can easily tell that the permanent clinics address reach most kids. However, if this was Rift Valley and I click on the Rift Valley region, I can see that mobile clinics address and reach more children than the permanent clinics. So this is just an example of how we can use analytics on our handheld devices to make better decisions. And we can apply this in different ministries. So in conclusion, we will run the final video.
In December of 2013, UNICEF reported nearly 230 million children under the age of 5 have not had their births officially recorded, excluding them from education, healthcare, and social security.
That's My Story by Kenya Connect.
Thank you very much, Pedro and team. That was a very exciting. We are now talking about the how and how we are going to realize this. Continuing on the same level of excitement, now we want to go broader, look at the national level, government level. What is the government thinking? What ideas does the government have? And how are these being realized? And for that, I want to invite none other than Mwende Gatabaki, and she's going to tell us, she's Presidential Digital Transformation of Government leader of that task force. And she'll be looking at the project sponsored by the President on public service delivery. Very, very exciting. I hope they're already up.
Good morning. I hope you can see me. Height-wise, I'm not so, but okay, you can see me. So I'm Mwende Gatabaki. I'm going to present to you the Presidential Digital Transformation of the Government. I'm the leader of the task force. The theme today has been on digital transformation and digital leadership. So basically, this will show you that in this country, the president himself is actually providing the digital leadership. And I'm not saying I'm the president, I'm just saying what I'll present to you will demonstrate that he's actually leading in this area. So this is the technology-enabled transformation of the public sector. The project is initiated, sponsored by the president. So we have all the political capital that we require. It has 3 core objectives. The first objective is to strengthen national security, reduce crime, and enhance safety. I think we've all been concerned about what's happening in Kenya. Westgate is still very fresh in our minds. The crime rate, what's happening. So this is one of the core areas that the president is asking, how can we leverage technology to address this? The second area is to drive efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability in the government. The third area is to provide citizen-centric services that are accessible, available, and affordable. So those are the 3 core strategic objectives for this digital transformation of the public sector. Why? What are we trying to address? What are the challenges we are facing? The first one, and we've heard quite a bit about it today, the country is vulnerable to the rising insecurity, terrorism, fraud, and criminal activities. But why? What has been happening? What's behind all this? The first core thing here is the government has limited knowledge of its people, land, assets, and establishments. I think you've just seen the data here from UNICEF. How many kids below the age of 5 are actually recorded? There are more details on that. In Kenya, 40% of people below ages of 17 do not actually appear in our government, in our public records. So it means, that affects everything. It affects planning, it affects our policing, it affects everything. When it comes to land, very many people have been conned here. You're sold public property and you have no way of knowing it. You buy land which has already been sold to somebody else. Those kind of things. That's what we are talking about. When you talk about assets, for example, the pastoralists, they keep livestock. But we've not developed value chains so that we can unlock the value of those assets. That's what we are talking about here. Establishments, we have all these companies, some doing all type of shady businesses, but we really don't even know them. That is what we are talking about. We need to have very accurate and complete data on those 4 building blocks. The next thing there is ineffective tools to monitor and track criminal activities. We talk about crime, we talk about people coming in and out and doing all sorts of things, but we don't have ways to monitor and track. So we don't know whether we are getting better or worse. We don't know whether this is increasing or actually decreasing or remaining the same. We don't know. Then, of course, because of all this, we have corruption in government. Okay, it works both ways. It creates, when you're not transparent, it creates room to do all sorts of things. But at the same time, the corruption also increases security. So this insecurity, so it actually works both ways. The next thing we are trying to address, ministries and departments within those ministries work in silos. This is leading to, 1, lack of a unified direction and synergy in achieving the broader goals. If you're talking about Vision 2030, getting all the 18 ministries to work towards delivering on the goals of the Vision 2030. Duplication and wasted resources. So every one of them is doing their own things, So there's a lot of duplication, there's a lot of wasted resources. Procurement and vendor-driven culture. I'm sure you're nodding your heads now, you should be. Procurement, they're similar, but they don't mean the same. Procurement is where in the government now, when it's a big project with a lot of money, everybody is very keen. Like this project, it has little money, so nobody is really, paying much attention. Now, vendor-driven. Now when vendors come in again, and this is where going forward, we must partner. Vendors, we must partner with the government to deliver. You must stop saying the government as the gravy train. This is where you make loads of money. When you ask for a quotation, you double what you'd normally ask the private sector. That's what we are talking about here. We must think of partnerships. We give them value for money. That's how, going forward, that's how it must work. The third thing, massive bureaucracy, lethargy, and red tape. This gives us low productivity of people and assets. Let me give you an example. We've spent about 20 billion, in the last 2 years, we've spent about 20 billion shillings in ICT, in the ICT sector, for example. But what has been the impact? What has been the results? Do we measure? Do we know? The way you compare that, in our first year of free education, we spent 7 billion, but everybody saw the impact of free education. So that's what we're talking about. If you're going to spend 20 billion, twice of that in 2 years in ICT, then really the country must see that impact. And because we're ICT people, I think we need to be very conscious of this. We need to be very conscious of this. High cost of running the government business, 62% of revenue on recurrent expenditure. It would be okay if this recurrent expenditure was service delivery, increasing the services in hospitals, better schools, etc., etc. But it isn't. It isn't. Bureaucratic corruption facilitated by ineffective systems and process audits. Files still disappear, and this is 2014. That's what we're talking about. So that has to go. The fourth block here is lack of performance, results-oriented culture. I think someone today talked about measuring results. We never quite measure results. So we don't know whether we actually deliver on what we say we are going to deliver on. One key issue here is that performance is budget-focused. So you can say, okay, we got so much, and we actually, used so much, we are able to absorb so much, but that does not really tell you, what did you do with that money you got? Is there value for money? Okay, could you have used that money better by doing something else? We never do that. Okay, so that whole idea of it being budget-focused, we have to change that to being, yes, it's good to know exactly how much you're spending, but it's also good to know what exactly did you deliver. So results. We are going to move towards being results-focused. No holistic results measuring framework, okay? Lack of accountability. 30% of the 2012-2013 expenditure could not be accounted for, and this is from the Auditor General, okay? So those are the key things we are trying to address. We're asking ourselves, the President is saying, these are the core issues. I hear about this all the time. How do we leverage technology to address them? So this is how. We said we must give it an end-to-end solution. So this is what we are trying to do. How do we move to a digital government? How do we address those issues? This is how. We are going to do it in 3 strategic programs. The first one is what we are calling a National Digital Registry Services. This will be the one central point where you get complete, correct data on those 4 blocks. The people, the land, establishments. Establishments is the companies, societies, cooperatives, parastatals. You had the other day when there was the reforms of the parastatals, and there was the debate how many parastatals we actually have. And it's still not, we still quite don't know, that. So they should be there, and we should always know and what they do, etc. And then, of course, assets. The second strategic block is a government shared services. What will we be addressing here? The processes that the government uses, the systems and technology, and the organization. How is the government structured? What are the skills and capabilities we need to build in the government to be able to leverage technology? The third layer here is the one-stop shop for public services. The rationale is if you don't clean up within the government, there's no way you're going to provide good services to the citizens. So that's why the second block must come. You must do the second layer before you go to the third layer. So with those 3 strategic programs, that's how we are going to move the public sector to the digital age. Now, let me just talk a little bit about each of the blocks, just briefly. So the first one, the National Digital Registry Services, to establish a single source of truth, linking the 4 building blocks, people, land, establishments, and assets. It will provide complete, correct, available, and secure national data. What do we expect from this? 1, strengthen intelligence gathering and crime management. We want to come to a point where when you call the 911 at home, you know that concept of 911, somebody actually answers the phone on the other side and helps you. That's what the citizens of Kenya are expecting from the government. Effective government planning, revenue collection, and resource allocation. Reduce corruption and fraud. Sale of public land must end. Fake title deeds must end. What do we expect? What's the goal? At the end of the day, what are we going to have? We are going to have all these registries linked together. The people registry, the land registry, the assets, the establishments. And we are going to introduce something new, a production center. All the documents, the public documents you have, your ID, your passport, NSSF, driving license, will be generated from one source. And any document you have will have your unique identifier, you. That document which talks about you. So that unique identifier will have your biometrics. That's the only thing which truly is very unique about you, which nobody else can fake. Because you can say system generated, but we all know that we can generate numbers, you know. We are computer people, so we know what we can do with that. But, you know, so for now, we are going to leverage on the biometrics technology, and we'll have a production center for all the public documents to provide them with that security element, which is based on the biometric technology. About the government shared services, the objective is to drive operational excellence, efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability in the government. How are we going to do this? Digital transformation of the cabinet. When we tabled this presentation to the president, I told him, Mr. President, for us to do a digital transformation of the government, it has to begin with your cabinet. And he said, absolutely. So you can see he is really supporting this all the way. That's where we must begin. You must begin at the top. Establish standard government of Kenya email and collaboration platform. Email is a very powerful tool. Once you get people communicating on the same platform, meaning they're talking the same language on the same platform, you start moving towards the digital era. Integrate and streamline the 5 core back office processes. The 5 core that cut across all the 18 ministries. They have many other processes, but there are 5 core. There's the first one, which is the planning to execution. There's a second one, which is revenue to cash. How we collect revenue to how we actually get cash and we allocate it. There's a third one, which is from recruit to retire, how you manage your people. There's a fourth one, from procure to pay, all the way to payment. You'll see other discussions, I think, tomorrow about cashless payment, etc. So it's along that chain. And of course, there's a record to report, okay? So those are the 5 back office core processes. And establish a performance and delivery unit, focusing on results and getting people to move in the same direction. Expected outcomes, a unified government working towards shared goals. Service excellence, we free the ministries to focus on service delivery. Think about how much time the Ministry of Education is spending on laptops, buying of laptops, while in actual fact, they should be using that to come up with policies to reform the education sector. That's what we're talking about here. Take that away, those back office processes of procurement, and leave them to do their core role. That's what we're talking about. Bring down the cost of doing business. Value for money. How we spend money, there must be value to it, okay? But we leverage economies of scale and scope. And finally, the one-stop shop for public service. With this, we'll be ready to now face our citizens with a lot of confidence. And the objective is to deliver service excellence, citizen-centric services that are accessible, available, and affordable. This will entail establishing integrated citizens-facing services from one government, so that you don't have to know, oh, if you need a driving license, you need to go to KRA. If you need I don't know what, you need to go I don't know where. No. It's one government, it's one government. You just need to know, click this button, to do an ID, go to your mobile phone, click 1, 2, 3. or call this number, that kind of thing. It's one government we are getting services from. So we don't want to know the details of how the government works. Provide multi-channel delivery, whatever is easy for people, whether it's a mobile phone, web, whatever. We see what is best and what is easiest for people to access the services. Set service standards. That if you apply for a passport and you have all the documents, you should get it in 2 weeks, flat. If you apply for an ID, you should get it in like that. And mode of communication, how will we be communicating with our citizens? Expected outcomes, anywhere, anytime access to public services. It doesn't matter where you are in Kenya, you should be able to access those services. Better quality services at lower cost for taxpayers, and easier life for citizens. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the returns. What do we expect? And what are we really going to use as our performance indicators that we can actually measure? When we do public projects, we look at 3 things. We look at social returns, we look at economic returns, and we look at financial returns. So when we talk about, and the most important is actually social returns, because these are public services. That's why we call them public services. We expect greater intelligence for national security. Security, it's a one thing. If Kenya, you are feeling insecure, you're scared of going around your business because you never know where the next grenade will be thrown, that makes everybody paralyzed. So that is the priority of this. We must provide citizens with that secure environment to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. Better crime control mechanisms, the 911 type of services that you can call at home. You've been robbed, you've been mugged, you've been beaten. You can call a number and someone will respond and come to your help. That is what we are looking for. Greater outreach and ease of access to public services. Mobile phones become your Huduma centers. So we have the Huduma centers. We want to take that a notch higher. Imperatives. What must be done to actually deliver that? The first one is technology infrastructure becomes a strategic investment for the government. Meaning, when we are talking about areas in Kenya where there's no ICT infrastructure, no, it's in the interest of the government to partner with the private sector and make sure there is that infrastructure everywhere in the country. A service-oriented culture in the government, so that the next time you go to a government office, you're not asked, lakini wewe ulikuja hapa kufanya nini? The whole attitude, it must be very service-oriented. Yes, please, can I help you? Because you are the one who's making those people have jobs. That service culture must happen in the public sector. Economic returns. Raise Kenya's ranking as a preferred investment decision. This is very core, and this is what we aim to achieve. Enhanced revenue collection and focused government investments, so that the government is able to know where does it invest. It's able to prioritize and see where it needs to invest and how much. Enhanced, I said that, ease and lower cost of doing business. Unlock the value of assets. I talked about livestock. We have a lot of livestock in Kenya, but we really don't have value chains so that we can really get that value from livestock. You'll see, for example, small-scale tea farmers, they can go to a bank and take a loan based on their tea. But livestock people, they don't have that. They don't have that opportunity. Yeah. So really, we are denying them opportunity to really grow that sector. Imperatives, effective policy and regulatory frameworks, to make sure for the digital platforms to facilitate this to work, and of course the robust ICT infrastructure. Financial returns, value for money. Reduce cost of government and citizens. For example, this whole thing of ghost workers, this should become a non-issue, completely a non-issue. Should not even take any space in the newspapers, Time in the queues, think of the time you spend when you're queuing, whether it's for a passport, for an ID, for whatever it is. Transport, paying the people coming all the way from the village to Nairobi to process their documents, that. So those will be savings for the citizens. Cost savings, time and money, e.g. electronic voting. If we go electronic voting, think about how much money will save compared to what we are spending today on the manual voting. Paper usage. I'm told, I haven't gotten the number yet, one of the biggest ticket items in the budget is paper, the number of reams of paper we use in the government. In addition to that, the other side of it, and people will tell you that you walk to a shop across the road, you buy a ream of paper for 500 bob, but when you're doing it in the government, you spend about 1,000 bob per ream. Those are the kind of things that we need to address there. Then opportunity cost. What has been happening when you don't have the same view of things, the same goals, different departments do their own things. So that like here, they had the same view, but they were all doing it in the different departments. So we had the National Registry Bureau, spending about, they had proposed to spend about 12 billion on the third generation IDs. They had proposed, so these were proposals. At the same time, there was an upgrade for IDs. There was a proposal to spend 2.3 billion. The Civil Registry Department, they wanted to do a crash program. To achieve what we are trying to achieve now, they wanted to spend about 2.6 billion. IPRS wanted to upgrade. They wanted to spend about 1.2 billion. Immigrations, you understand, they're doing it all separately, but none of these projects actually addresses the core issue that, one, we don't have complete data, it's not correct. None of those projects is actually addressing the fundamental issues we are facing. So we are saying this is an opportunity cost, because when you do things in small bits and pieces, you never really address the real issues. Imperatives, effective sustainability measures. Once we do this process where we capture everybody's biometrics, we capture their records, we issue people with a unique identifier, how do we sustain that? How do we make sure every birth is being recorded? That's what you're talking about. Culture and attitude change in government, that they are providing services. They are there to provide services. Yes, and that was about it. That was my last slide. Okay.
Mwende, thank you very much. That was very, very exciting. We are talking about LEO projects, and that is one of them, a very big one, breaking all the barriers we had in mind, making us all be connected the way you have talked about, security, talking about transformation in government, and it's a LEO transformative project. Thank you very much. I like the excitement. I like the energy, I like the dynamism, which I know also touched you as Mwende went about talking about this project. I know there are so many issues you may want to understand about the project, and Lakrit is going to be here with us for the next 2 days, and I know she's going to give us her contact so that you can be able to get some more information about that big project and what role you can play. And I can assure you there's a lot for you. Before we get to the next speaker, I would like to call upon Stella from Communication Authority of Kenya, Patrick Mwesigwa, UCC, Uganda Communications Commission, and Dr. Tumuboinge Tweni Manzi, also from Uganda. The Minister for Communication is waiting for you outside. So if you could please step out and meet the Minister. So going on with the same excitement, we had initially from SAP, private sector, very clear, very specific, very hands-on, and you can see the value immediately. Then we came to the government of Kenya, and we had excitement also of the president, very clear on what the government wants to achieve. Now I want us to go back to the private sector and see what is the private sector doing. And here I'm bringing a telecom operator. And for this, I want to bring none other than Mr. Xavier Villegas of Orange Telecom.
Good morning, everybody. In 2012, during my first Connected Kenya, a speaker called Robert, maybe he's in the room today, gave a secret for a very powerful and successful presentation, the 5B rule. I don't know if some of you remember it. The rule was the following: be brief, Bob, be brief. So I will apply it today because we are already late. Okay, so to speak about ICT socio-economic growth and impact is a very easy thing because it is obvious for everybody that ICT can improve both society and economy? Well, at Telkom Orange, we believe it is maybe obvious, but it is not so easy, because to have a real impact, it requires a lot of different skills. In other words, it requires a joint effort from different professionals. That's why at Telkom Orange, we have decided to focus mainly only on 2 areas: healthcare through telemedicine and education through e-learning. Let's start with telemedicine. First, some definition. Telemedicine is the use of communication and information technologies for delivery of clinic care through the phone or internet or video conference with the purpose of consulting for remote medical procedure or examination. Telemedicine has been identified as one of the ways that health care can be improved in rural areas and slum underserved communities that have limited access to proper health care. So now, how it works. So basically, telemedicine requires 4 main players. The first one, of course, the clinic in underserved location. The second one, the telemedicine equipment provider, because it requires some specific tools and instruments. The third one, the third player, is where Telkom Orange today acts, is the internet connection provider. And the fourth one is the expert, is a doctor in an urban setting. In Kenya, we are moving from isolated pilot programs today to more widespread use of telemedicine. The technology becomes cheaper and easier to use, hence ensuring that the service deployed are provided to people in underserved areas at a minimum cost. So what are exactly the benefits for these people? So benefits for the communities are mainly child and maternal health care. We have seen just a few minutes ago some other benefits, also directed toward child and maternal health care. Children with paraplegic conditions, emergency cases, of course, childbirth. Patients receive specialized treatment from qualified doctors that are in the urban areas. This initiative will improve the livelihoods of the people living in underserved areas again, and encourage them to seek medical attention. So what are the next steps, the future? So the first thing is, of course, this project should be developed further because it will lead to a better access to preventive health care by government. Improve health among communities, improve the economy of the counties also, and telemedicine, we believe, will be critical in early detection of illness and will end up saving lives and saving money also. At Orange, we believe that the best performance are the performance which last. So to be able to provide a self-sustainable service is a key factor for success. So sustainability is a key thing in all these projects. So the underserved sites are able to raise funds through consultation fee, charges with every visit to the clinic. That happens today. Getting partners on board to further improve the health package offering to the community also. In the long run, the initiative will lead to new jobs for many trained medical officers and improve the well-being of the community. And if we look at a more prospective view, the first thing is the world of telemedicine and more broadly telehealth will continue to advance due to the progress made in technology And as technology advances, we will see an uptake of patient-doctor interaction via video calls also, using mobile phones. That means broadband 3G and 4G very soon in Kenya. Of course, the future of healthcare will become also more inclusive as the penetration of broadband and internet coverage becomes more ubiquitous. So now I will move to the second area we are focusing in at Telkom Orange, which is education. So one of our action in education is the community knowledge centers. It's a very successful initiative we have developed again with different partners. What are basically the community knowledge centers, or CKC as we call them? Community knowledge center are e-learning centers that present the following opportunities for communities they operate in. They try to improve the literacy level of Kenyans, which is already very high, and empower communities. CKCs have three main goals: improve access to education, training and learning opportunities for young girls and women, improve access to regional and international markets for women and youth in business, and improve also healthcare in counties through the support of online training for community healthcare workers through the CKC. Additional concrete example of these CKCs. First, the Sekeneni example. At Sekeneni, it is in the Mara community, in the Mara area. The CKC aims at empowering the community to access information and communication. For example, I give you this because we didn't expect this kind of result. Maisai Moran managed to learn the Spanish language through online tutorials at the CKC, and today is very efficient translator and for the Spanish-speaking tourists who visit Mara annually. He learned his job thanks to the CKC. At Mugambo, Mugambo CKC was formed to assist the community in the area to conduct business and create market for their produce. Another example I will give for the e-learning and the education area is the telepresence service in universities. Currently, 6 universities enjoy telepresence solution in Kenya. Telepresence is an enhanced video conference service where you really believe to speak with the real people in front of you. It's a scale 1 equipment. So I have even seen people trying to shake hands, forgetting that they were speaking to a people which was several hundred kilometers away. This helps, the telepresence, this helps providing access to content also and experts anywhere, anytime, bring together multicultural students, improve administration and staff productivity, integrate course lectures and live content with learning management systems, and increase professional development. Telepresence also allows to extend beyond physical facilities the reach for students and educators across the world. What are the next steps for education? Like in the health sector, sustainability is the best guarantee for long-lasting success. So CKCs easily today raise funds from the communities by charging a subsidized fee to use computer facilities, for example. On the investment side, the e-learning projects still requires today a big investment. There are more than 10 CKCs today in Kenya spread across the country. This number is set to increase in the coming years with the advent of the county system. We are today working with our partners directly with the county's administrations. The future for e-learning, the future looks great. I will say that it will involve content creation tomorrow and avail the content to schools and teachers across the country. So we'll move from just accessing a content to producing a content and distributing it. And it will also develop not only one-way communication, but also interactive sessions between the student and the teachers. Basically, that ends my presentation. This is all for me. I hope I have followed the 5B rule. Before I finish, I just want to make a very quick comment on all press articles maybe you have seen like me in the last weeks about Telecom Orange. So I will paraphrase Mark Twain. I don't know if you know Mark Twain. He's a US famous writer who one day saw his death announced in the newspaper. So I will paraphrase him and tell that rumors of Telecom Orange exiting the African market have been greatly exaggerated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The content of the presentation and the dreams of Orange Kenya are not exaggerated. What is exaggerated is the company exiting Africa. But the content they gave is not in any way exaggerated. It's Leo, and that's what Orange is driving. So thank you very much. We have had a very, very good presentations, very, very clear, drilling down from the dream we got from the plenary. Now, this has been coming from this side. What is your response? I would like to get a response from you by way of either posing a question to clarify, or we don't mind getting an input from you. So the first one, I know there's something set aside by the organizers. The first one to pose that question or give an answer. And we have mics moving around. Oh, good. And I can see where the gift will go, but we'll discuss later on. Welcome, and please introduce yourself and take 1 minute or less to post your comment.
Good. My name is Delano Longwe from Hitachi Data Systems. The one question that I had in terms of implementation, I think I'll address my question to Ms. Gatabaki. On the Presidential Task Force, I think the vision is very clear in terms and the velocity which you intend to drive this. The only thing, perhaps from an audience perspective, I can comment on is we don't have a clear timeline. So perhaps if you could give us a more specific timeline which would enable industry to support those objectives, because that will then determine what the pace and rate of helping or assisting you achieve your goals will be. We need to have a very clear timeline.
Thank you very much. We'll take 2 more before we turn to our panelists. Yes, please. If we could have a mic to that gentleman. Please introduce yourself. Which way? Is okay, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Kihara from Office of the President. I want to comment on the audit report and to say categorically that that was not true. It was completely not true. Indeed, the Auditor General has clarified to ourselves that he had only audited a few ministries. And then he interpolated. And in auditing, we deal with actual figures, not interpolations, and it would really be something very obvious to all of us if the government misused 30% of a 1.4 trillion budget. Indeed, it is not doable. It cannot happen. And I would want the participants of this conference to go away knowing that that was a false report that that report is not true and that they should never quote it again. Thank you very much.
So as we break the barriers, we also must make sure that we go with the right information. Thank you for that clarification. One more, yes. And we are also looking at the gender balance. So after that, I'll look for a lady to, yes.
Thank you. My name is John Gige from the private sector. I have nothing to deny, so
Okay.
mine is a comment. Now, talking to SAP, the presentation that you have given is quite good. But the question is, how do you take care of duplication? Because we have a lot of interest in different sectors of the country where registration can come in. How do you ensure that the registration is coming from the right sector and no two duplications are coming? Is the father genuine? Is the mother genuine? Are they ghost mothers and ghost fathers? Those are issues that you probably would want to look at. Now, the other to Gatabaki is already there are some of the ministries that have got authentic data. Are we taking into consideration a way that we can be able to use the same data that is already existing? Secondly, there is an issue of standardization, and I think this would fall under policy. Where if you go to the places like the National Registration Bureau, you would find that the city, town, district locations, codes that are being used are different from the ones that are used by the statistics, it's called what? National statistics or something? And because they are different, therefore there is no standardization and you cannot actually be able to use the silo that is used by the statistics with the silo that is used by the National Registration Bureau. Are we thinking of changing the policies? Thank you.
Thank you very much that you are not starting up to deny anything, but rather to progress a discussion. I was saying that if we can allow a lady so that in line of our constitutional requirement, 30% minimum. Any lady wishing to ask a question? Oh, yes, and there she is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rebecca, running a digital inclusion project under the PASHA project, ICT Authority. My question goes to the Orange. You're running community knowledge centers. I would want to know how you intend to work with the already existing centers that are taking ICT to the rural people or the marginalized communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 3 questions to the 3 panelists. I'll give them each a minute to respond. We start from SAP.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. My name is Pedro. I look after mobility solutions for our market unit here in Africa. You asked a very interesting question to say, how would we then market our applications and how do we then ensure that the data which is sitting in the back end is accurate data that we're able to consume and so forth, right? When it comes to mobility, a mobile device and an application relies heavily on what you've got on your back-end systems, right? So now as a government organization, this gives you an opportunity to refine some of this master data that you have in the back-end, right? Because the people that are going to be consuming this data on mobile devices or the people that are going to be capturing this data, the app itself, right? We've got the mobile application which can then try to do basic validation of the data which has been captured, right? So if I'm scanning a barcode from your 3rd generation ID, which I know you don't have now, but if you get to that stage, you can then validate some of the information as you're capturing such information, so that you can then be able to pick up some form of duplication or some type of fraud that might be trying to take place, right? So the main key thing to understand is that the technology, yes, the technology is there to enable all the verification to say that is this correct or so forth. But then at the same time, we need to ensure that the data that we have in the back end and the systems that we currently have in the back end have got that capability of validating such information and so forth. And now this gives you an opportunity to look at some of the SAP systems that we currently have for social services that can allow you to provide such services with accurate data and so forth. But then in terms of a mobile application is anything. You can define any mobile application to do anything. I always say mobility is limited to your imagination. All we need is a clean backend system and the right business processes properly defined into how we run our businesses.
Thank you very much. Mwende, 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, I got two questions. One is on timeframes, and the second one is on standardization and policies. So on timeframes, let me say the broad program is at 2014 to 2016, the broad program itself. However, the priority right now for the next 6 months is that people are building block under the national digital registry services. And what we'll be doing under that, with our time frame of up to August, is sometime in June, we'll actually do a digital registration or a digital drive where we'll ask everybody to actually come along and bring their documents, their IDs, their birth certificates. We'll do biometrics, we'll do the eye scans, we'll do the fingerprinting, we'll scan your document, and we'll create a digital record for every Kenyan. Then we are going to use the existing data to just verify that what we are capturing is indeed what is already in the system. Where we have issues, we'll verify and validate, and we establish a clean database. So that the time frame for that is 6 months, up to August, because we started doing this from March. So our time frame for that is up to August. So the next question on policies and standards, that is true. We have all the ministries with their data, all the bureaus with their data. Everybody has their data they call theirs, you know. So indeed, this is one of the things that we are looking at, standardizing on how we code data, standardizing on how we even call locations, what we call counties, sub-counties, how do we code them? If you're getting data, if there's a birth registration in a sub-county X, how is it coded so that when you're doing analytics, business analytics, you are able to actually even identify where a particular birth was actually recorded and the particular village that actually happened. So that is something which will be part of this. When you're doing big data management, these are some of the things that you must actually put in place. So we'll definitely be looking at them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Xavier?
Okay. Regarding the CKC initiative, we don't have any monopoly on e-education, and we don't look for this monopoly. So if the government or somebody else has any will to do something in this field, we will be very happy to do it with you. And I can put you into contact with the people in my team that are taking care of that. Again, all these initiatives are possible and can only be successful if we are putting together all the skills required to make it sustainable and to make it complete and global.
Thank you very much. In the short time we had, we were able to break the barriers. Can you please give a loud of applause to this team? And for that, I want to invite the organizers. They also want to say thank you in a special way, so that next time we call them up next year, they are ready also. So with that, I want to turn over the podium to the MC to guide us on what next. Thank you very much, and thank you to the audience for a very good session.